So the sale was going through of my company, and I was looking forward to being an employee. Then all of a sudden my husband tells me that we're moving to, Hong Kong. It's quite a hard pill to swallow because, I'd promised these people that I was coming in to work with them, and all of a sudden I've got to pack up my family, my kids. What are we going to tell them? When are we going to tell them? What are we going to do? And it literally was 6 weeks to pack up a 7-bedroom house, 3 kids in schools. So after getting the initial news of Hong Kong, about 2 weeks later, he said, actually, in second thoughts, he said, it's going to be much better in China. So he started his own business because post-GFC, he was one of the people in the fallout from GFC as well in property. So decided to start his own business. And we had started in China, albeit very small, and he figured that's where he really needed to be in order to grow our business. So, it was really important to me that I supported him on that and made that decision that it'd be an incredible adventure for the kids. I literally had 3 days of a recce over there to find a driver because no one drives over in China if you're a foreigner. It's just too dangerous and you don't understand the language, if you got into an accident, for all sorts of reasons. School for the kids to go to, and obviously I couldn't pick a local school because none of our kids spoke Chinese. And then I also had to find a house. So within 3 days over there, without a word of Chinese and through translators, and you've got no concept, no one could ever understand what it is like to live there. The noise, the smells, it was so overwhelming. And you're literally powerless. You have to go through a translator for everything. But the best was they said to me, oh my gosh, this is fantastic driver. He's amazing. He's Shanghainese. He's really good at English. This is all through translators. He used to work for the Israeli government. And I'm like, great, I met him. He spoke 2 words, but I liked him. We got on. Anyway, now he speaks English better than I do. And my Chinese isn't that much better. But yeah, we arrived in China and we basically packed up and moved our life to live there for good. So, we rented their house, and I wanted to make sure the kids had a really good school because I wanted them to do the IB program, and I wanted Billy to finish his senior school over there, and I really wanted to create a life for ourselves in China. So we bought, I'd literally worked up until the day that we left, packed up the home, and to do an international move was just impossible. Like, to pack up your entire life into boxes and to send them overseas was just like, an incredible, all our art, deciding with the kids, all their toys, all their books. And, China has strict laws. You're only allowed 300 books in. So, my kids had so many books. So I didn't even think it was 300. Maybe it was less than that. I can't remember. But anyway, packed up the entire house to create a new life over there. So it was really, really difficult when we first moved over there. And the first thing, I'd always surrounded myself with pets, and we had a beautiful ridgeback and a snoodle here in Australia that I gave away, because I'd always loved big dogs, but I knew that, living in an apartment over there, we had to have smaller dogs. So I literally, through a translator again, called up and said, find me 2 dogs. I don't care what they are, but my kids need animals. We can't move to a foreign country and not have animals. And I think the enormity of it hadn't really hit. I sort of figured it was going to be like, it all sounded glamorous, and I'd left this, career of 13 years of working so hard, and I thought, this is the first time in my life I'm going to get a chance to relax. And all of a sudden I arrived there and I had 192 boxes to unpack. My husband wasn't there, he was off working, and my parents helped me unpack. But can you imagine trying to unpack when no one speaks English? So I had to write numbers on the doors and sort of point to the numbers, and then they'd know where to unpack. So it was a very long, arduous process. And where do you buy milk that's safe? Where do you buy bread for your kids? So it was really, really a long time it took me to settle in there. And then I just loved it. Once once you literally know 5 words in Mandarin, you don't feel as vulnerable anymore. You can hop in a taxi, you can say your address, you can, Ijizo, Yoguai, Soguai, left, right, ting, stop. My favourite was the girls always used to laugh at me, my expat friends over there, because I used to say Ichito, which is Ijizo, which means, go straight ahead. So a few little things like that, you don't feel as vulnerable. And again, you feel like you rule the world. So that feeling I had left of running a successful business and doing all of that, I was now getting this feeling again. I was in a foreign country. I was rocking it. I was kicking ass. There were girls that had been there for 15 years that didn't know where to buy the best bread, the best milk, where to find the Filipino pineapples, where to get the Vietnamese limes, where to get the taco shells from. So all of a sudden, I'd created another sort of, I'm a hero, I'm great sort of momentum. My kids, or Johnny and I's kids, were doing well at school. We were really starting to settle into this life in China, and I was really loving it. The English system, you holiday a lot, so you're constantly going away on holidays. And it was my first trip back to Australia, and I hadn't realised it, but all my friends were planning a surprise for me. And I was heading back to Noosa, and Nico was playing rugby in China, which he loves, and against all different. In one Saturday, he would play against, the Japanese, the French, and all the different nationalities. So this life that we were creating for ourselves in China was amazing. So we had won the premierships in the rugby that day, and we decided to go for lunch at one of our favourite restaurants, and I brought our Chinese driver. I asked him, they didn't often like coming in for lunch with you, but we said, come on, you've got to come in, it's a special occasion, we've won the premierships. So our family was sitting there, beautiful 5-star hotel, and Milana was only 6 at the time, and she looked at me and said, Mummy, someone's in your handbag. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I had all the passports in my handbag because we were about to go back to Australia. And she said, Mummy, that lady's just taken your handbag. And, the kids are always in and out of your handbags, and it was down in between my, down at the bottom of the seat. And I turned around and I looked there, and as I got to stand up, I ran to the door, and this woman was running away with my handbag. And everyone assured me China was one of the safest places in the world. So the manager of this 5-star hotel came down. It was pretty horrific situation. My world had gone from, again, being on top of the world to overnight feeling so violated and so, helpless. You get interrogated. You've got to try and get all your documents again, all your visas, and I wasn't going to make it back to Australia to see my family. I had to show up at the consulate and explain my story and try and get a temporary passport. So all of a sudden, my world. So that night I was preparing for the Australian stand. So all the different nationalities at the school put on this great parents' evening where you go. And I've been preparing with this fabulous chef to do this wonderful evening for the Australian parents. Again, I'm on top of the world. I'm doing everything. And all of a sudden I'm in the fetal position in my bed, not being able to hop out of bed because of the shock of being robbed and being so violated again. So, it shows these highs and lows that the human spirit can go through. And that took me a long time to get over that. It took me a long time to get over the fact of, I know it was a theft, it was passports, no one was hurt, but it was all of a sudden realising, well, not every country is safe. And I mean, China is very, very safe. But there still are things that can go wrong. There still are, problems that happen. So anyway, got over it. Time heals everything, and life went on. And I absolutely loved my China life. Absolutely loved living in China. And really, we're going to be there for a very long time. If not forever, or because you could go anywhere from there. You would go on these wonderful holidays, would holiday in the Maldives, and then we'd go skiing in Whistler, and so you were always living this exciting life, and the kids were thriving at school. And then one time we came back to Australia, and Billy really had a rough time and just decided that he couldn't live there anymore. He just didn't want to live in China. He wanted to be back in Australia. It was his right to be back in Australia. He wanted, you know, to swim in our beaches and feel the breeze in his hair. And I thought, well, you know what, we can make that work as well. If that's something you really want, we can make that work. I can put you in boarding. And, you know, again, we've got such a close family. And I'm thinking now all of a sudden I'm ripping apart all of our family and I'm going to put him back in boarding school. But you do what you've got to do. And it got to the November and he was starting in the January. And we were on holidays again, and I just turned to Johnny and I said, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I've got to come back. I'm going to bring everyone back. I'm going to bring the kids back. And, you know, it was a hard decision because our business is over there and our business is travelling. Because he travels so much, I was on my own over there. I'd prefer to be on my own here with my supportive family and everyone around me than being on my own there. So I'd stuck it out for 2.5 years, and not stuck it out because we had fun and it was amazing, but it was also a tough decision to decide, you know, to come back here. But, you know, people all over the world do this, do what we do. You know, think of the people in the army that don't see, you know, their loved ones for months and months and years at a time. So for us, we make it work, and it's, you know, I think you can make anything work if you want it to.